Hey, my name is Dr. TK, and welcome to the Abundant Creator Podcast. On this podcast show, we will uncover prosperous tools to help you become the CEO of your business and your life. I am a mom and wife who merged my knowledge as a clinical psychologist and professor for over 20 years into building a multi-six-figure mental health business and seven-figure digital product business serving others and doing what I love. Now, I believe that you can make a wildly abundant living unapologetically while also dreaming big, enjoying life, and making a huge impact. So if you are ready to achieve your biggest goals, then you are in the right place. So let's get started. Hey, what's up, y'all? I know it has been a while since I have published a regular audio podcast, but it is May 21st. At the time of this recording, I just wrapped up day 2 of the Private Practice Glow Up Bootcamp series. During this season, we decided to do my team and I, a 5-day experience because one, bootcamp experiences definitely light me up. I think it's partly because I love responding to people and their questions and showing them excitement with what is possible in private practice. But also I'm in my zone of genius as it relates to teaching, motivating others, and also sharing with other people what is possible. So the title of today's podcast is The Reality of Entrepreneurship, meaning it's not made for everybody, is a sneak peek into what is coming, but by the time that you listen to it, it would have already dropped today on the bootcamp. I want to talk about the reality of entrepreneurship and what even our business is doing about it to cater to the therapist community. And so, for some of you who are new to me, welcome to the podcast. My name is Dr. TK, clinical psychologist and therapist business coach. My whole focus within our coaching company is to inspire therapists to go after the dream and big version of themselves that they see for themselves, like on their vision board, right? And there are no limitations, there are no excuses, and really the only block and barrier is ourselves. And so in 2024, I know, even firsthand, of course, living in California, that economical hardship looks drastically different than even what it looked like back in 2020 through 2022. I personally, because I haven't talked about a lot of this on the podcast at all, my family and I have experienced just some rough, I'm gonna say, seasons in the last 2 years, whether it be change in finances, and I'll explain what that means, strains on marriage. And what I mean by that is having a 6-year-old, a 13-year-old, and, those are 2 different developmental milestones. We also have a blended family, which means that our household structure changes every week in terms of what is happening in the house, where attention goes and flows, because at one point we'll have 1 child, at one point we'll have 2, but then they definitely, as you know, if you have 2 kids, they have different needs. They're both boys, but being 13 is drastically different, entering into a different season. And then, of course, 6-year-olds, they're really into their stage of why, I want attention today, now, kind of thing, and really expressing themselves. And so why that has impacted, I'm going to say, marriage is because, I've only had 1 biological child. So this is my first time going through this from start to now, versus when I first met my bonus son, he was already 4. And, I wasn't immediately in his life like that until me and my husband got really serious. And so with that said, he was like 5 going on 6. And, pretty much he was where my son is now. So I and my husband have just in this season realized, and I think I spoke to this on one of the past podcast episodes, me and my husband now are grappling with the fact that our support system is not as wide and big as the number in our family. And what that has caused a rupture in, of course, is the need to now hire a external babysitter to go on dates if we want to do something, let's just say on our side of town, because we live about 40 miles away from my mother. My grandmother is getting older, so I mean, my youngest son can go over there, but to a degree, not so long. His mother, there's nowhere to really play outside, and he's sick, so he needs to go outside. And even his older brother gets bored in the house. So we're just starting to recognize that maybe even the way that we envisioned the things that we were able to do, like when the kids are in school, meaning it doesn't count like when we're out of town and stuff like that, because we can definitely go on date nights and stuff like that. But even then, we don't have an extra person unless we literally pay for someone to go on the entire trip with us. And that is an extending cost that I just don't want to do right now, because our energy and finances are going in a different direction in terms of like future housing, investments, and things like that. Where we just really have to wake up and look at life a little different. So the reason I'm taking some time to explain all of that is, one, to catch y'all up, but also to help you see that you are not alone when it comes down to rapid shifts and changes. If we talk about finances, I mean, living in California is not a joke in 2024. The way that we moved into our current, housing community, it's a townhome. So we rent because we sold our home right before the pandemic, is they have pretty much raised our rent $150 to $200 every single year outside of the first 2 years we did a lease, because they trying to recoup the difference between how much we pay and how much everybody else pays. So they want to catch us up by increasing us to the maximum capacity. And you may be thinking, well, why don't you just go out and buy a house? Well, if you pay attention to the marketplace, either the houses are over $1 million. And if you want $1 million home, you have to have certain, not cash flow in your business, but certain money in your bank account ready to give the home. And we're not talking about no program for $20,000. We're talking about on a paycheck stub for my business owners versus business owners. That's also a reality of entrepreneurship, is when you want to buy a home on paper, what do you look like, right? Is that we're talking about putting down damn near $300,000 for $1 million home in California for us to not have an outlandish mortgage. So again, I'm explaining all that because as the market has shifted, we also personally, despite like what people may see online with like revenue being posted to talk about like what's possible, not bragging, but even when that money is being made, if you're a business owner, you know that all that money is not yours. So let's talk about the reality of entrepreneurship at its core, because the first thing that I want to tackle is entrepreneurship is not, let me repeat, is not made for everyone. And some people need to test it out to figure that out. And then some people know that and you're trying to fight against it, but you're still showing up as what I call an employee with an EIN number. Just because you have an EIN number on paper through the state does not mean that you're a business. So what's really important when you look at building a profitable business, it's important for you to recognize that if the direction that you're going, your path aligns with where you want to be, and it aligns more importantly with your personal goals and capabilities, then do it. But if you find yourself being more and more frustrated about something isn't working out, and you've sought out mentorship, and you've implemented what the mentorship has suggested, and you've done it over and over again by making small tweaks, and then you realize it does not work, then either you're going down the wrong path, or the entrepreneurship path, at least, the streams of income that you've been doing is not profitable. So what we've done in turn of like looking at even me as the CEO or president of the company and like changes that I've experienced, team members also have experienced, just changes because of the fluctuating economy, we can only wonder what's happening with even prospective therapists who want to get the help, but maybe it either doesn't make sense right now, or they may need a little bit more time to just understand how our program can mentor them for the good for a long period of time. So what we have done is we've done a thorough assessment within all of our coaching programs, even outside of private practice, because we were trying to figure out, based on our assumptions, if we were on the right path in terms of why therapists are showing up differently in this season. And one of the main things that we've started to recognize is that therapists, a lot of them are in a season of hitting capacity, being overwhelmed. But I want to go back to capacity for a second. Capacity, honestly, is a choice. So if you chose to become an entrepreneur and you realize that you want additional streams of income, but you've reached your capacity, you do have a choice to change and restructure the way that your company is ran. If you have a job and you choose to have a private practice, you choose how you define part-time versus full-time, right? So when I hear therapists saying that they hit their capacity, I believe them. That's a real thing. But now the higher quality question is, well, what are you willing to do about it? Now, I know what we can do about it. And I'm going to explain how we're making changes in our academy program for the good to meet the needs of our therapists that are already in the program and also to support newer students. But I first want you as a future or current entrepreneur to sit down and think about, what do you really, really, really want? That was one of the biggest things that we talked about during this bootcamp experience, because it goes beyond wanting to know the templates, strategies, and all those things. Because if you don't have the right mindset to back it up, then you're not going to do the work anyway. And some of the themes that were coming up is capacity, burnout, and also one question came up, but we pretty much nipped that in the bud by giving them resources, is when is the proper time and how to ask questions. And for our Dope Therapist Academy, we let them know that outside of guest speakers coming in, if I am hosting a call, which I do almost pretty much every month, at least once, you have the right, if it's a strategy coaching call, because we have a different type of call I'll get into in a second, you have the right to ask your question, even if I am bringing in a particular topic. And truth be told, whatever I'm talking about right now in terms of topic, bringing it in is even going to stop, because the only reason we were bringing in topics into our coaching calls is because we went on a stint of our clients really not having any questions. But then we realized when we were talking to them that the reason why they probably don't have any questions is because when we look in the portal, they're not consuming the information. So it's very similar of someone showing up on the day of a test in class and saying, oh, I don't remember going over this information. And the professor would say, well, we didn't. You were supposed to read chapters 1-3. And I told you were going to have a test in 2 weeks. I'm going to go over the pre-chapter, but it's your job to read chapter 1-3 and then to come to class and ask me questions so that I can help you understand the context, right? So what we are choosing to do to alleviate even capacity in our coaching program, because in order for somebody to get the best out of their investment, they have to show up for it. So there have been seasons in our academy where we went every other week for 8 weeks and then had a hiatus break. Then when 2020 hit, we had a 4-week cohort and we went straight 2 to 3 hours on a Saturday because everybody was locked up in their house. Then after that, we went to, and we fluctuated between, based on the time of the year, holidays and things like that, we went to like a 6 to 8 week structure. And there were some weeks, again, depending on the holidays and the seasons. And also I had live events at that time. So we would fluctuate between having some calls back to back, some calls spaced out, etc. And it worked for that time. But we adapt based on what's happening with therapists showing up in our community. We pay attention to, are people showing up and getting the support? Are people watching the replay? And all of that also is contingent upon, are people wanting to get out of their investment what they desire? Because I can adapt it as many times as I want. And I'll tell my team, like, I can lead a horse to water. But again, if somebody doesn't want the help, they're not going to take it, right? Even if they pay for it. So we also recently went to a 12-week process. And we've been doing that for a couple of months now, but we've also noticed that we're seeing the same trend. So what we came to the conclusion of is, whether we do 4 weeks put together back to back, whether we do 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or 12 weeks, the content doesn't change, because our clients can come in. Let me be clear about this. Our clients can come in as an alumni after their quote unquote cohort as they came in, what was guaranteed to them when they came in, like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks of how the calls will be structured. When they come in, whenever their cohort is done, they have the right to come back. They have alumni access until we remove that. And that has been on the table, because we've also recognized that there's been that we think that subconsciously, when someone knows that they have unlimited access to something, they keep putting it off. And let me know, go over to Instagram and let me know in a DM if that's accurate, because I don't think that people even think on a conscious level like that. But if you really sit back and ask yourself, like, look at an Amazon cart, Amazon ain't going nowhere. The product may go up, but what, by $1? So you may start to find yourself continuously forgetting about the cart because it's always there. Okay. So, do I get live support is a big question that we get for people coming in to the program. So going back to entrepreneurship is not for everyone. We would ask that before someone joins anything that we have, that you commit to your process of going through it. So this is what's going to be, I'm not even going to say changed, but enhanced in our service to our clients. So one thing that we started 3 months ago or 2 months ago is we started these community and connect calls. And the reason we started that because we know that being in private practice, even if you're in a shared office space, it is isolative. You go get your clients from the lobby, you go back to your office, you see your clients, you go home. You do your progress notes in silence and in silos by yourself. You may do like little tea dates or whatever with your friends, but then you go back to the office or your home office and you do therapy by yourself. If you have clients back to back to back, you for sure by yourself. If you work from home, you are for sure by yourself until you go outside that door or outside of that corner. So we realize that at least the goal of our company outside of building profitable operating systems is to have those operating systems leverage your time so that you can get your life back and live the abundant lifestyle that you desire. But what was missing from our coaching calls was the mindset stuff. Because also I would give those resources if they would ask. And so I said, let's create a space where we meet only once a month because I enjoy providing AKA business therapy to the therapists. And they have went so well. They've been very intimate. We've had anywhere up to 15 people on a call. Sometimes when you watch the replay, it may not look as such because some people may turn on and off their camera. And the way the recording picks it up is only people, I don't know if y'all know that if you're on DTA, the only time that stuff is captured is when people are on like their faces on the call. So you may watch a replay and say, dang, only one person, was on this replay and it may have been 20, right? But you don't know that. So what we are continuing to do is monthly, what's called group business therapy community and connect. And those are on, I believe the first, I don't have it in front of me, but the first or second Thursday of the month at 9, and the replay is always in the portal. So we're going to continue to have those as they continue to work. What we're going to do about the coaching call. So this is split up into 2. Now, if you are in DTA and you're listening to this, you should have already watched the video for this because we sent it out via email and Facebook too. So we're going to separate one big thing that we were doing with coaching calls for the last 5 years. We're going to divide it up into 2 segments. So instead of us having potentially me doing 1 to 2 calls a month, then potentially a support coach coming in maybe every other month, what we are going to do is narrow it down. And for time, because therapists are saying they were at their capacity and I want them to implement what we're teaching. So we're going to do a mindset call, like I said, with business therapy community and connect as a group. And then we're also going to have a group just straight up Q&A strategy call, which is no different than what we've been having, but I'm not bringing in content. It will thrive off of the other segment that I'm going to mention right now. So personalization. We know that some people just do not like to ask their questions in front of other people. I don't care how you spin it. You don't. Okay. And we want to respect that. So what we are allowing people to do is we're going to allow you got to put your name on the Q&A form, but what we're going to do is create a private podcast feed. And as much as questions come in, if questions come in every single week, I'll record a podcast every single week, right? If it's a small question, like a tech question, we'll pass that over to the support team. But my goal is, for example, to say, hey, submit any questions that you have by Wednesday. I'm going to be recording them on Thursday. We're going to get it published by Monday. On Monday, you will get rapid Q&A of people's questions without their names. So we just tell people, remember what your question is, right? Because it will be published the following week. If there are no questions, there will be no podcast. I'm not going to have you consume additional content when you can't even potentially consume the content in the portal, right? So our goal is not to over inundate you with just information because the information is null and void if you cannot implement it. So if you're new and you're thinking about joining DTA, ask yourself, how well does it sit for yourself? Like, wow, first of all, we get live support. We get mindset stuff because that is needed for growth in business because we can get hard on ourselves. But also we do get our questions answered, whether it's live or pre-recorded. So this is how it's going to work. Imagine that today is Tuesday. Imagine that 5 questions came in by tomorrow. And on Wednesday, me and my team look at all the questions. We make sure that all the questions are appropriate for coaching. And then I go into my podcast studio, AKA home office, and I record them on Thursday, Friday in like either one batch, or I may record them in like 2 to 3 episodes. It really depends on what the question is. And then I will upload them to the private podcast feed, and you will start as a DTA student. You will get emails saying there's a podcast episode, and you'll get the title of the podcast episode based on the question, if that makes sense, right? So that's why I said we may divide them up, but that gives you the ability to pre-submit your question, and you don't have to worry about somebody looking at you, because this came up too on our calls as, I don't know if it's a dumb question. And in business, there's no such thing as a dumb question. We don't know what we don't know. But again, we're just trying to enhance people's experience, because I want our clients, as part of our core value, I want them to have a very good experience. So personalization is key. Private podcast drops. So what's going to happen from there is once a month, we're going to get together for the group Q&A strategy call. And we're going to say, hey, these are all the various topics. I'm not going to repeat what I said on the private podcast feed. I'm just going to say, hey, these are all the various topics that came up on the podcast feed. We're going to encourage our students to listen to those, of course, because when we get on that strategy call, this is more of a question mark of if this call will stay. And I'm going to tell you why. If people aren't submitting questions, then there's nothing to talk about on the group call if you can't even submit your own personal question to the forum. Right? So what we think will happen is people will say, wow, I listened to this question on this day, and now I got my own question, but I knew we were going live this week, so I got a follow-up question. So now we're talking about rapid fire Q&A, hopefully from something that got stimulated from the private podcast, or maybe you just had a question and you would just prefer it to be answered live. But we wouldn't encourage that, honestly, if there's going to be 3 weeks between these calls, because it's once a month. Okay. So let me recap. We're going to have a once a month group business therapy community and connect. That is not a strategy call. We're not going over the portal. The only thing we will answer in those calls are questions about like customer support if you need it on that call, but we'll more than likely just say submit a support ticket. That is for us to talk about how you are showing up as the best version of yourself, self-care, vacation hacks, things like that. So it'll still be like strategy-like, but more so about how you can fill your cup. Then we're going to have a private podcast feed in which you will have every week to submit your question. As they come in, I will record and drop the episodes. Then we will come together once a month on a different week. Our goal is to have the monthly community and connect. Let's just say if it's on week 1, our goal is to have the monthly Q&A strategy call on week 3. So it can be kind of consistent for your schedule too, because we understand you need consistency. So if that's the schedule, there will be some months where you will only see me on the community and connect call. And why? Because strategy call is also for our support coaches to come in and support regarding creating your framework or specialty topics or talking about money. And so bottom line is you get a lot of support in addition to alumni access and any updates to the portal. And the reason why, again, we added these enhancements, especially for newer students coming in to feel more supported, is that we were very clear with our community and saying, what can we do to help you maneuver through this information so that you can ask questions to build your business? And again, it was capacity, not getting into the work, so not making room for it. And then also we talked about putting their ego aside, because no question is too dumb. And what I told them is, please release your degree and just request for help. And hence, we said, how many of you all, because this is what we're considering, how many of you all would submit a question to the podcast? And they all shook their head. Okay. So by the time that you're listening to this, we would have already dropped the details of DTA on the live series. What I would encourage you to do if you are interested in DTA is click the link in the show notes. What it will prompt you to do if you are already not on the bootcamp list receiving emails about DTA or the bootcamp experience is I would highly encourage you to get on the DTA wait list. When you do that, it will bypass you to the bootcamp experience and help you, consume the bootcamp material. And then you will also start getting information about how to enroll in DTA. And the reason why we don't give direct access to here's our enrollment page is because you're still still a human being. And human beings, they don't look for value first unless you have invested before. You don't look for value first, you look for the price point first. And I want you to understand what you are getting out of something before you look at the investment so that it can make sense. Okay. So we know that we have a very great community. Our community is for different groups of therapists. So if you are starting off fresh to private practice, our program is a very good match for you. Just know that you're going to go at a different pace compared to someone. And I say compare because we compare ourselves, right? Compared to someone who already has a part-time or full-time practice and they want to just get really focused on the growth and the operations of a private practice business versus just starting one, right? Then we have the therapists who want to relaunch their private practice or expand beyond part-time. And then we will also provide you with the resources, whether it be outside resources or things that you can, do in our program. All of our coaching calls are recorded into our portal. We have a self-paced portal that takes you through blueprint, reach, automation, niche, and delegation. And what that means in layman's terms is in blueprint, we're going to help you create a 5-year vision for your business that then is broken down into a 90-day goal. And then that will show you how to show up in your business throughout that quarter. And then we will share with you in the blueprint how to create your dream schedule from the 5-year vision to now the next year. Because again, we want you to accomplish something and get a quick win. Sometimes when we make goals so big and they're so far from now, we stop working on them and we're not connected to it emotionally. So we want you to be in the moment as well as working toward the future. We also in Blueprint, it's a lot that goes on in Blueprint because it sets the tone for the whole program. We also help you create your framework, aka your theoretical orientation for your clientele for attraction purposes. When we get to reach, this is where we start to dissect what you did in the blueprint. And now we're talking about how can you show up and attract your ideal clients? Who is your ideal client? And let's build a funnel to get in front of those clients. So it introduces you to a consultation process. Then in automation, the third framework, we teach you how to build an automated framework system. And we have a support coach that teaches it pretty much every quarter, but her replays are always in the Q&A portal for you to review it, just in case you want to review that right now because you already have a practice. So it's all about automation, what's in your back office, paperwork. A lot of these EHRs now are way more adapted to what therapists need, in comparison to when I first started coaching for DTA students. And so a lot of the things that we even provide, some of the stuff is already in your EHR. So we talk about how to utilize and get the best bang out of your buck in your electronic charting system, right? Because you pay for it. And then when it comes down to niche, this is under the expectation that you've done the work to build out your ideal client avatar. You started marketing to your clients, testing different marketing tactics, asking questions, getting help, building your back office. And now we're looking at, okay, well, what else is possible? Not that you would go there, not saying I want you to go and build digital products, but if that's what you want, I want you to keep going and building the rest of your business so that when speaking opportunities come to you, if you want to accept it and it aligns with what you want to do in your business, you can say yes or not right now and later. But we dream big in niche in the framework. And then in delegation, our goal is for you to first understand the importance of leveraging your time. And then if you desire, you hire an assistant or a VA, which we highly encourage because we want you to start practicing getting things off your plate, even with one person to help you, even if you're still the main person doing the work in your business. So that's our framework broken down. Again, it's self-paced in a course portal, but the whole purpose of the calls is for the information in the portal to come to life in your business and for you to personalize it. And again, you get alumni access. So if you have any questions about DTA and you have read the enrollment page and potentially experienced the bootcamp, then hop over to Instagram. And the reason why I give those disclaimers is because I'm really, really particular with attracting my unicorns. That's my thing right now in the summer, in the late spring, attracting my unicorns. I've never been in a season of attracting all therapists, but I'm now even being more strategic with saying I want to attract the people who want to run a business, not a business. I want people who don't want to be a side hustler. I want people who are resilient. I want people who can get up, even if they fall down, even if it takes them a while to get up. I want them to get up. So if that is you, do your due diligence, do your research, and go look at what DTA offers beyond what I mentioned on the enrollment page. Watch the videos, know what you're investing in. And then if you're called to do so, and you're in a season where you fall into those two categories, you either are just starting or you need to relaunch your practice, then by all means, please go ahead and join. Now, if you have a group practice, this program does not help you hire additional therapists, hire a biller, credentialer, and things like that. What this program will do and what it has done for a handful, literally, of group practice owners is that they realized that they were running a sprint before they should have been being trained with a marathon, right? So what we have helped them do is double back and look at what are the basic fundamental systems that they need for a private practice. And then, of course, they have to still get help with the group practice portion. But what some of our clients have done is because they already had a group practice, they are very familiar with EHR and all the kind of stuff, but they're not familiar with building the back office of a business. They just kind of hire people. So what our therapists have done who already have a group practice is they still join DTA, but what happened is they maneuvered through the material so quickly because they were using it as checks and balances, and they were already used to implementing because they have a group. And so what some of them end up doing, not a lot of them, but a good amount of them end up joining me for VIP coaching or our scale program because that program got into the group practice. However, when some people try to skip grades and go into that program, we can tell because I'm not going to double back and then teach you or slow down your 3, 6, or 12-month program just because you didn't do DTA. So I would just urge you to know where you fall on the spectrum of building a business, not the same as how long you've been in business. Those are two different things. All right. So if you are called to join DTA, again, check out the DTA waitlist in the show notes. It will reroute you into our system. You can rewatch the bootcamp series if you would like, binge watch them. They will be available until May 31st. We do have some bonuses being dripped out for the bootcamp. They will be in your email box once you get on that waitlist. And even if you don't get a bootcamp email that day in terms of how to enroll in DTA, you will get one like the next day. Okay. So just look out for those emails as it relates to how to enroll in DTA. Again, if you have any direct questions, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Dr. TK Psych. We can chit chat right there in the DM. And my Instagram is Dr. spelled out TK Psych in the show notes as well. All right. So I will see you in the next episode. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, I would greatly appreciate it if you would give me a 5-star rating and let me know, how did you like this episode? How do you like the energy of my podcast? And also feel free to binge listen. We have plenty of episodes on a variety of topics for mental health therapists in business. But this season right now, over the next 2 weeks, is solely dedicated to those in solo private practice. So I will see y'all in the next episode. Bye. Fire me up. You just finished another epic episode of the Abundant Creator Podcast. Now, I would love to connect with you, so be sure to head down to the show notes for any additional abundant resources. And if you are looking for a new tribe of abundant creators like yourself, connect with me on Instagram at Dr. TK Psych or YouTube at Dr. TK. Until the next episode, create and live abundantly.